Why Uber must submit to privacy audits for the next 20 years, how to watch a movie in a theater every day for only $10 a month, and seniors, don't let your kids tell you how to use tech. All that and so much more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1832, recorded Tuesday, August 15th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by the Ring video doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/TNT and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about technology today. I am Megan Morrone.
And I'm Jason Howell, and I feel like we have a requirement to elevate our game today because we have someone in the studio watching with us.
We do.
We have M from Santa Monica right over there, and thank you for stopping in. Anyone that wants to stop in and watch the show can. Tickets at twit.tv. It just makes us feel just a little bit more important, I think.
Right. And you don't, as M does, have to have a smartwatch on either hand. He does.
On both hands.
Yeah, working on the Apple Watch and the
Fitbit, right?
The Fitbit.
Yep.
They're both hands. You don't need to do that. It's not a requirement.
But we appreciate it nonetheless. All right, top story today. I'm not so sure this is part of Uber's 180 days of change. But it's change, nonetheless. Uber is paying the price for its misuse of GodView as a result of a probe by the Federal Trade Commission. Uber's required to submit to 20 years of privacy audits, and if mishandlings are discovered, Uber faces stiff financial penalties as a result. Not only that, Uber's being taken to task for not protecting sensitive user data on Amazon's cloud. That actually dates back to, it was discovered in 2015 that they were storing large databases of user information on Amazon's cloud without encryption, and so I guess they've changed that since. But basically, it's like a perfect storm of I don't know, Uber doing what Uber does, basically, and now it's kind of coming to bite them in the butt.
Yeah, they misrepresented how effectively they were monitoring their employees who had access to this. I mean, this is something that we always just hope. You know, we enter our password, we give away our personal information, and we expect, at the very least, that when it includes location information, that they're not, that the employees are not allowed to just go in there and see where we're taking our Ubers and who we're with, et cetera.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about this, and I guess if you're a lawyer, you see this all the time, that Uber is going to submit to all this, but they did not admit to any wrongdoing as part of this. They don't have to say they did wrong, but they will admit to the next 20 years all these security checks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Uber's not alone, by the way. From what I understand, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and a whole bunch of other big tech companies also are under this 20-year checkup plan.
Oh.
So now Uber joins the ranks of the upper echelon of technology companies.
Oh, that's interesting. Because unlike Facebook or Google, there are so many Ubers. I mean, there's a Lyft. There's, it's just Uber is, I just don't believe they're going to survive because they're not doing anything differently. They might have gotten there first, but I don't know. I think that just because they got there first, they might be the MySpace to Lyft's. Lyft is Facebook, MySpace is Uber, maybe.
No one wants to be the MySpace.
Nobody. After GoDaddy and Google refused to host a neo-Nazi site, Motherboard says it's moved to the dark web. According to a tweet from the site, they're using the dark web not because they want to be secure, but because they want a place to promote themselves where they can't be shut down by corporations. They posted the onion link that you can use with the Tor browser, or you can just add .to to the end of the link, which lets you view it in any browser, but it's not anonymous like Tor. And again, this shows that Tor is not exactly being used for the good that it was designed for, which is upsetting. I think there are many good things that Tor can be used for, but it's such a small percentage at this point when you read the research and what it's being used for. So Facebook is also removing links to Daily Stormer. The site was kicked off YouTube. So yeah, it's but they still are there on the dark web.
Yeah, the walls are crumbling down on the not so dark web around the Daily Stormer. Yeah, it's having a lot of reverberation and a lot of discussion around kind of the conversation around what, like, is it okay for websites to take a political stance and remove content or remove sites altogether? It seems like what they're saying resoundingly is yes, there is a line that once it is crossed, it is okay. I also thought this was interesting. There was a hacker that began to DDoS the dark website today. That hacker got in touch with Motherboard and basically said, I don't really care about either side, but he really just wanted to, what was the quote? Just to annoy Weave, really. Weave is a notorious contributor to the Daily Stormer, and also, I might add, mentioned something about yesterday how the site was taken over or on the surface taken over by Anonymous. We've basically admitted that was a prank just because they are, quote, a convivial, is that the word? Mm-hmm. Convivial publication, which basically means a jovial publication, which is not necessarily the word that I would use for the Daily Stormer, but there you go.
Yeah. So, it went by quickly. I didn't know who asked this, but someone asked, what good could Tor be used for in the first place? What good was it being used for? And Tor was originally developed so that people overseas could have communication with their families and it not be intercepted by the enemy. And that was, and then we've seen it being used for whistleblowers, and we've seen it used just for secure communication when it's needed. There is a need for anonymity, but I do think that we're getting to a point where I think it needs to, I think we need to rethink it, because I'm not saying we, because that is beyond my pay grade, but I think it is being used for, for so much evil, if you will, that I do think that I hope someone has an answer to this, because I don't.
I mean, that's a tricky area to enter into, though, because it kind of intersects with the conversations that we've been having about encryption, right? And encryption, I think a lot of people, especially that watch this show, would agree is a security tool that everybody should have access to, yet it is also used for a whole lot of evil. And so, I don't know. It's kind of a slippery slope to go down, because once you start making those determinations to say, well, it's good for this, but it's not good for this, so let's change the whole thing, then that affects the good uses of it as well and completely changes the game, completely rewrites the existence of it.
Right. And, here's a place that's being used for human trafficking. And it, as some people blame it for the opioid crisis, because you're able to get synthetic drugs from China when you couldn't either. And so is that the price for, for anonymity for whistleblowers? Right. It's not that easy. I'm not saying there's an answer, yes or no. So
absolutely not that easy at all. Google Allo has long suffered from one of many, maybe some would say, critical roadblock for helping it broaden its user base, a lack of a desktop app. Google has now released the web version of Allo, first for Android users, with iOS to follow in the near future. The web app is tethered to the device that a user's Allo account is logged into. That's similar, by the way, to how WhatsApp approaches it. It's basically using, so like I was playing around with this morning. I'd be logged on my phone. I'd go to the Allo website. It would give me a QR code. And when in the Allo app on my phone, I would scan the QR code from within the app. And it's basically syncing the content that's on my phone into the web interface. So nothing's actually being stored on servers, from what I understand. It's kind of streaming that, in a sense, from your device to the web interface. So you get the benefits of having a web interface for Allo, but it's still, Google can still kind of hold true to the idea that this is, encrypted communication. That's why you can only have it on one phone at a time. And we're not actually, moving this information into this centralized area for everything to have access to. It's only coming from the device, the specific device that you're using.
And so I wonder, once it has the iOS, once you can have the iOS version on the web also, will everyone jump ship from iMessage to Allo?
I don't know about jumping from iMessage to Allo. That's a really good question. But I do think that this is an important step for Allo to broaden its user base. definitely for Android users. I know I've been using it more. I've switched my wife over. We were always on Hangouts before, and Hangouts just seems to be like, you know, it's been a long time on the out. And there are actually some really great features that I've come to really love about Allo. And so the more I use it, the more I like it. This is just going to get me using it more, and that's exactly what Google wants.
Can you tell me what those features are? Because I tried to use it, and I couldn't use any of the features because no one I know is really on it. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
You got to have, you know what I mean?
But I mean,
with any messaging
when I tried, I don't even
platform.
think you were using it back then.
I wasn't using it
Yeah.
very much, especially when it first launched, because I do so much of my messaging on desktop, right? Like I'm always in front of a laptop, and it's just easier for me to have my Hangouts open and whatever. So now that I have that, great. It has the smart reply functionality built into it. It has Assistant built into it, which if you want to, in your conversations, you can get some really creative things going if you're just having fun with your friends, or even informational, like, oh, hey, what time is that show? Just plug it right into the conversation. Everyone sees the results of it. And then I realized today, we're getting some trees removed at our house, and I wanted to send my wife a picture of it, but I realized within the app, the Allo app, you can actually record almost like a boomerang, a little like looping, like animated video. So I figured out how to do that within the app. I don't know. It's just got little features, and they're adding more stuff. So I think Google's on the right track, but they really kind of handicapped themselves by launching in such a limited sense and with such a confusing messaging kind of approach, you know, up till now. They have so many of these different messaging services that it's really hard to know what to focus on.
And so, you know, the thing that they always showed off, like, have you and Stacey actually had that experience where you're like, where are we going to go to dinner? And then the assistant comes in and helps you plan your day and have a better life?
No, we haven't done that yet. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I feel like it's an accomplishment that we moved over at all because we were so, you know, ingrained in Hangouts. And I can probably speak safely for my wife in saying that she probably doesn't care between the two which one she uses, as long as she knows which one to reach me at.
Right. Yes, I understand. I am also a wife.
So I mean, I don't think that she would have cared, but that's the kind of thing that I'm sure when the time comes, I'll probably do it, and I'll probably hear from her later, like, oh, that was really cool. That was kind of neat. So, but no, we haven't really. All about Android chat? Yes, we've definitely done that.
Okay. A former Netflix exec is offering a new plan that lets you see a movie in a theater every day for a subscription price of only $10 a month. No blackouts, no contract necessary. MoviePass has been around since 2011, but this is a new low price for its subscription service. They used to depend on a tiered system based on the cost of seeing a movie in your location. That's out the window now, too. It's $10 for everyone. As of December of last year, the service only had 20,000 subscribers. They're hoping that the new price will give the service a big boost. The change also comes as MoviePass sold a majority stake to Helios and Matheson Analytics Incorporated. And when we see a cheap price for something, we always know that it has to do with some sort of data. This is a publicly traded data firm. It's all about the data. Yep,
exchange for behavioral data, for better marketing, all that stuff. Just goes to show how valuable data actually is when you can have an all-you-can-eat, movie theater experience month to month for $10, which is just crazy.
Well, it says all you can eat, but like I could go to see 3 movies a day, and you can't do that. Just one a day.
Oh man, I don't even know the last time in my life I could go see 3 movies in a day. When I was working in a movie theater, maybe, but never since I've been an adult. In 2014, the service was around $30 to $35 per month. So to kind of give you a comparison of how inexpensive $10 is versus kind of where it is even a couple of years ago. And it kind of changed a little bit, the pricing of it, based on how big the city was that it was, being used in. Limited to 1 movie per 24-hour period. So if you went to see a 6 o'clock movie and then the next day wanted to see a 4 o'clock movie, you had to wait till 6 before you could see the next one. So a little bit of an issue there. But then it jumped to $45 per month in big cities. And even there, like, that's still not a bad price if you're such a movie fan that you know you're going to see 3 to 4 movies in the movie theater per month, which I've considered myself a big movie fan. Never that big though. I rarely would ever go see that many movies in the movie theater, but maybe that's just because I'm a dad. I don't know. Like I've got so much on my plate as a dad. Maybe that's it.
Well, okay, movies are expensive. So they're obviously trying to get people into the theater, right? But when I look at this, it sounds pretty cheap when I see $10 a month, but I'm not going to that movie by myself. I'm going with my family of 5. And so then each one of us would need that subscription. It's not like anybody can go, like I can go one day and one of my kids can go the next day. And so Netflix, I literally could watch 4 movies or TV shows, and that's $14 a month, but we're all watching it. And that's, that is part of it. Like if I could have 7 people, 10 people watching a movie and we're all paying the same price.
Right.
But we don't get the movie theater popcorn.
That's true.
That's why I go.
No concessions included. But I mean, if there's 5 of you and you're each pay $10 per month per person, so that's $50. I mean, again, the economics work if you go and see one movie at the movie theater.
That's true. Which in the
but you have to commit to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you all have to go see one movie at least per month in order to get that money back.
And it doesn't include 3D movies, and it doesn't include IMAX.
Right. take
the theater has to have take debit cards.
Yeah, because I guess the way it's done through the app, you're using a very specific, like a debit card that's assigned to your account in order to make these purchases through the Movie Pass system. And then also considering, as far as making money off of this, so $10 for a movie ticket is more than most nationwide markets, which is an average of around $8.50. So they're making a little bit more. If all you ever see is one movie, metropolitan areas, it costs a little bit more than that. So maybe it balances out a little bit, but it's hard to see this lasting for a super long time. It seems really inexpensive, but they say that this price is guaranteed for at least 12 months. So it could go up in a year. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea. I think I read it compared to a gym membership. Which, gym memberships survive because there's a whole bunch of people that sign up and then they never go.
Yep.
And so that would be sort of the same thing, except for part of the gym membership is like you pay that money because you're like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to be fit. But like, it's
aspirational.
Yeah.
Aspirational
is seeing a movie every day aspirational as well? Like, I'm going to see a movie every day.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I always mean to see more movies in the movie theater, but I don't see it as aspirational as it is getting into the gym and getting healthy.
But yeah, and I mean, our tickets are so expensive now at our theater, and they have the big, giant, comfortable seats that lean all the way back, but which means there are fewer seats.
Yep.
After the break, find out why Geoffrey Fowler from the Wall Street Journal says you should not ask your children for tech support. But first, let's take a minute to thank the Ring Video Doorbell, the sponsor of this episode. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring Video Doorbell to help protect their homes. Ring knows home security begins at the front door, but it doesn't end there. That's why they're extending that same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring Floodlight Cam. It lets you see security in a whole new light. Get it? See what I did there? Just like Ring's Video Doorbell, Floodlight Cam is a motion-activated camera and floodlight that connects to your phone. With HD video and two-way audio, it lets you know the moment anyone steps on your property. You can see and speak to visitors, even set off an alarm right from your phone. Remember, whether you're there or not. With Ring's Floodlight Cam, when things go bump in the night, you'll immediately know what those things are. So whether you're home or away, the Ring Floodlight Cam lets you keep an eye on your home. Ring Floodlight Cam offers the ultimate in-home security with high visibility floodlights and a powerful HD camera that puts security in your hands. That's why it was named the Wall Street Journal's Best of CES 2017. Monitor every corner of your property with a Ring of security kits. Here's what the kits include: a Ring Video Doorbell, and then your choice of either 1, 2, or 3 floodlight cams. Connect your Ring Video Doorbell with your favorite smart locks and hubs for added convenience, monitoring, and security. With Ring, you are always home. Right now, save up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/TNT. That's ring.com/TNT. And we thank Ring for their support. Many seniors are quite comfortable with technology at this point, but some still need a little help. Geoffrey Fowler from the Wall Street Journal offers tips for seniors about getting better at tech. His biggest piece of advice is don't ask your kids. Welcome back to the show, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
So I thought it was my daughterly duty to show my parents how to use their devices, but you say seniors should not ask their offspring for help.
Well, here's my question for you. Who taught you how to drive? A lot of families, that's a very contentious thing as well, because it's like learning a new language, right? Both driving a car and learning how to operate an iPad or a new computer. And the stress that comes with trying to learn a new language can't happen quickly, and it can bring out all of these existing kind of patience issues, right? You're probably much more likely to be patient with a complete stranger than with your own parents. And that's what often gets parents and kids into a pickle when they try to help each other out with tech.
That's a good point. I mean, I haven't taught or thought of teaching my kids to drive. Hopefully they'll just be self-driving cars for them. But swimming is a good example. Like, I did not want to be the one to teach them to swim because it was too stressful.
Yeah. And, families have issues. And especially around aging, there's a lot of implicit ageism that we don't really even necessarily recognize in ourselves. And so when we're dealing with a parent who we've, always thought of as an authority figure, and all of a sudden we realize they're struggling with something, or maybe they're not, not the expert that we once thought of them as, that really stresses young people out. It also stresses out older people because they see all of a sudden how their children are viewing them or treating them differently. When I told my own mother that I was writing a story on this topic, and I do this, full time for the Wall Street Journal, she reminded me, Geoffrey, nobody likes to think that they're stupid.
Mm-hmm. You made a really good point in the article, or I can't remember if it was a quote from somebody else about how, from the younger generation sitting down to, let's say, show their parents or someone older than them how to do something, we're so used to just speeding through it and going, because that's just the speed at which we work. But just the fact of doing that in front of them can almost set them back a little bit, can almost make them realize just how not speedy they are, and kind of doing a mind check on that, because I know I've been in the tech support role for my parents many times, and I usually operate pretty fast. I try and walk them through it, and explain myself along the way, but I've never really looked at it from that perspective before.
Totally. I spoke to a lot of folks who spend a lot of time with seniors trying to help them get up to speed on tech. And one of the things that they really hit at was think of learning new technology like learning a new language. You wouldn't expect that you could all of a sudden learn French in an afternoon or even in an hour. So don't expect that a senior who's not used this device or used the software before can also learn it that quickly. And in fact, imagine what would happen if somebody was trying to teach you French and just started going off in French at 1,000 miles an hour. You would think, God, I can never learn this. And so it can really hurt more than it helps. Also, sometimes well-meaning kids and grandkids go in and they look at, mom or grandma's computer, and they're like, oh, they see all these things wrong with it. Oh, you've got all these old apps. You've got things in the wrong place, and they start moving stuff around, which, again, might be a nice thing to do. But then when the senior goes back to the computer or the tablet or the phone on their own and everything is moved, they don't have to do anything anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, my gosh, I can't use this anymore. So you got to take it slow and be very careful.
Yeah, I remember when my husband installed Chrome on my mother-in-law's computer, because he was like, it's so much faster, you have to use Chrome. And I was like, she doesn't have to be that much faster. She doesn't have to use Chrome, because she was so unhappy with it. I think the other thing that people do is they say, like, oh, it's so easy. This is so easy. Like, it's so simple. And that can be frustrating too, right?
Yeah, because you know what? A lot of it isn't that easy, and a lot of it isn't that simple. Silicon Valley has, for all of the sort of focus that Steve Jobs and Apple have brought to simplicity, things have gotten pretty complicated lately. Particularly, for example, iOS 11. Have you played around with the beta of that? Like, it now requires more. I mean, it's very powerful. It's much more like a laptop, but there's a lot of stuff in there that even someone in my role would not have figured out just on my own. I had to have somebody walk me through and explain, okay, if you swipe up from the bottom, that's going to lead to these showing up, and this is what you can do now. So I think Silicon Valley has really lost touch in a lot of ways with simplicity. One thing they could do actually to get back in touch with it is maybe hire some seniors to do testing on apps and devices before they come to market. They can be the canary in the coal mine. If a senior citizen can't figure it out, maybe it's not as intuitive as you thought.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to to the same point of a lot of topics that we talked about on the show, just being diverse in general from that very reason, just as one of many reasons for a shift in perspective, because that ends up informing the creation of that product so that the end user, all end users, are represented as far as their particular use cases. How much of a responsibility do you think tech companies have in creating their devices for all types of users in that way?
I think that they should take it much more seriously. Like it's a significant portion of the population, both in the U.S. and internationally, are senior citizens. And here in the U.S. and in some other developed markets, it's a growing part of the market. So first of all, they're ignoring a potential market. Mm-hmm. But second of all, tech companies, as you know, you talk to folks all the time, like to talk about how they're changing the world and they want to make the world a better place. Great. I love that. But if you want a population that could really be helped out through technology, could make the world a better place, senior citizens are one of them. I mean, the advantages of technology for communication could be incredible for seniors who are isolated at home, can't really get out. Or also think of what you could do with financial tools that you can get on a computer or an iPad or a phone. That can really help out a lot of seniors who, for example, really struggle with their finances. And maybe Airbnb would be a great way to bring in an extra couple $100 a month that could really make a difference in their lives. Or the other example is fitness trackers. I scoured the Fitbit website looking for the photographs of the kinds of people they showed using Fitbits, and it was pretty much all young, fit people who look like they could just run a marathon. Whereas think about the benefits that senior citizens who just need to maybe get a little more active for their health or for their happiness or their general outlook on life, what they could get out of using that technology to help them keep track of their activity level and get them to get up and go. So there's a lot of opportunity here for Silicon Valley to make a difference in the world that, again, people here just sort of ignore.
Okay, so if we're not so good at giving tips to our parents and other seniors, where can they get help?
You know what? The number one place I would start is your local public library. 62% of American libraries, according to a study from the ALA, the American Library Association, a couple years ago, 62% of them offer free support on how to use new technology. To try this out, I popped over just on a random Sunday to a tech seniors help hour or out 2 hours at a branch library here in San Francisco. And the kid volunteers, like a teenager. He was so popular. Like I thought there was going to be kind of an old lady brawl trying to get his attention because they all wanted a little bit of his time. So seniors are using these things and they should know that they're there. And the more people that use them, the more volunteers there will be and the better an outcome. So definitely libraries are a place to go. There's also a lot of senior centers now that offer this kind of training. My colleagues went to one in New York City that was amazing called Senior Planet. And you've got some video of it showing there. And it was like a college dorm, but for senior citizens. Like everybody's just hanging out, playing, learning how to do things. And it really showed that when you sort of build learning about technology into a community and in communication and communicate it in a way that seniors understand, they can really be into it just as much as anyone else.
You also make a really good point, and I know I feel at least a little guilty of this, not with my parents, but with my kids, about hand-me-down technology, about technology that you've maybe, come to the end of your terms with, but then you think, well, a device for someone that didn't have a device is better than no device at all, so you end up passing it down to your parents or whatever, and you kind of offload that miserable experience, whatever it is. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a big mistake. And again, not something I would have thought about until I started talking with folks who work with a lot of senior citizens with technology. But mom deserves a new iPad too. If the device isn't working well enough for you to do the things that you would want to do, why do you think it's going to be a great experience for mom either? Mm-hmm. The other thing that can happen is if mom or grandma has the new iPad, it actually combats ageism, right? So you show up, she shows up with the grandkids or whoever else, and they see her using that new iPad Pro. They're like, wow, grandma's got it going on. I want to play with her iPad and hang out with her. And I think that's a great thing for families and for senior citizens.
What about devices that are specifically directed at seniors? What do you think of those?
I have not had a great experience with many of them. And I heard The same from folks who, like at Senior Planet, who work with a lot of seniors, helping them learn tech. The number one problem is this: a lot of these devices are really designed for disabilities. And yes, some senior citizens have disabilities. They have eye vision problems, or they might have hearing problems. But that's not what defines being a senior citizen. What defines being a senior citizen is having being from a different generation and having maybe a different set of needs and a way to learn. And if you give seniors just disability devices, oftentimes they sort of take them out of the platforms that they want to and need to be part of to really get the most out of their devices. For example, a senior-focused tablet that forces you to use certain apps for video chatting might not allow you to Skype with your family or iMessage funny gifts to your grandkids. So there's a lot of value in keeping seniors in these mainstream platforms so they can be using the same stuff as all the people around them rather than being siloed.
Yeah, I think that gets back to what your point before, that Silicon Valley often ignores this population. So it's like, here's this thing that's great for seniors, but they don't really test it on them or anything like that.
Right.
Well, Geoffrey, thank you so much for joining us. Geoffrey Fowler is a personal technology columnist from the Wall Street Journal. He can be found at WSJ.com and Geoffrey Fowler on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Yeah. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, feedback time. Stephen wrote into TNT at twit.tv to say on TNT 1828, Jason and Jonathan Strickland, who was on with me last week, talked about the cheaper Echo Dot product being made by Anchor. One question I would have with using any non-Amazon devices would be around privacy. We know that Amazon is only looking for their trigger word and nothing else. What kind of confidence do we have in these other manufacturers to be as strict with what they are recording and transmitting? I'm not sure it is worth risking my privacy to save a few bucks by buying a cheaper device from someone other than Amazon. I did a little bit of poking around to see if there was any sort of mention of this. The only thing that I could say is that I have to imagine that part of Amazon's kind of agreement that they make with third-party vendors is that they follow a certain certain set of strict guidelines around integrating that service into their hardware. And so unless a hardware manufacturer was willing to go around those requirements, around what Amazon has set forth in order to use that technology, I would guess you probably have nothing to worry about. But hey, I suppose anything is possible. Yeah,
it is true. I mean, and you could still worry about Amazon as well. But yeah,
right.
I'm sure Amazon Voice Services is what the technology is that's on the hardware. And in terms of Anchor, I trust Anchor's hardware for, I've never had to, I like their cables, I like their, charging ports. I have a lot of their hardware products. I've never had to, I've never had a product by Anchor that is listening to me. But yeah, I think we're all just sort of trusting, just hoping for the best.
when it comes to all technology that we're talking about.
Yeah, or when it comes to all these devices that we have in our house where, it's constantly listening to us.
Yeah, Burke says, just real quick here, don't want to be on Amazon's bad side, which is probably very true. I don't know if Burke knows this from experience.
He doesn't.
I got to shrug.
I know he doesn't have Amazon Prime, so maybe.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
TNT's fan of the day is Sean Flowers on Instagram, who did what anyone can do to make sure they make it on this segment. Sean attached a photo with a Pekingese dog in it. Works every time. Really, any dog.
Yeah, any dog. But yeah, I haven't seen a Pekingese in a really long time. It's a cute little dog.
Show us how you and your dog watch or listen to TNT. Record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it.
Smart locks, they're all the rage. And by rage, I mean it can be downright rage-inducing when your smart lock receives a firmware update that makes it so you can't get into your home. Lockstate pushed software to its LS6i smart locks, and they say a small subset of customers experienced locks that were ultimately bricked because the locks themselves couldn't communicate with Lockstate's servers. I suppose this is just a risk you take when you have software that updates online. But it just stinks when you when you are talking about things in a smart home, like a smart salt dispenser, for example, is another one that comes to mind, that like on one hand, it's very smart and that's really cool and neat and it feels futuristic and everything. But on the other hand, just feels kind of ridiculous that there could be a way where you would get locked out of your home because of a firmware update that you actually couldn't get in because of the technology that's driving it.
Well, but you have a key. There is a backup key.
There is a backup key,
and
so I suppose that helps.
I have a smart lock, and I have no idea where that backup key is. So
I was going to say, do you have that backup key on you at all times?
I have no idea where it is. I would be breaking a window, and I don't have this smart lock.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I love my smart lock. I love it. I love the way that it lets my kids not have to worry about keys, and people that need to come in and out of the house not worry about keys. And we also have a giant scary dog, so that's where our security really comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, to their credit, they say they reached out to all affected customers immediately once they found out about this. They were able to get some online, while there were others that actually needed to send in the unit and have it replaced, which basically means you're taking your lock off of your front door to send it in to get it replaced. So that's a little bit of a pain, but they paid people a year's worth of premium subscription service, kind of protection service as a result.
Well, I didn't understand really. What's the subscription that you're getting?
Well, a lot of times, I don't know about this one specifically, but a lot of times they have this special subscription service that has, enhanced security features. I don't know if it's connecting to the internet. Maybe it's a service that, makes sure that it's online all the time, which a firmware update like this would knock that out. And hey, that wouldn't work either. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a bummer because this was the locks that Airbnb recommended for their places too.
Yeah.
So
there you go. All right, TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
Find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to see pictures of my dog who protects our house, whether we're there or not, from everyone and everything, you can find me on Twitter, and you can find those pictures at Megan Morrone.
You've got dog pictures on your Twitter feed?
Yeah, probably a little too many. It's all dog pictures and Snapchat filters.
I keep getting tweets from you with pictures of dogs that you think that we should get in our home.
Well, yeah, that too.
Adopt, basically.
You should.
And I appreciate it. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to Kevin for switching the show today and also for editing. Thanks to Burke for helping out here in the studio. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Oh,